Hi out there in the YouTube world. It's me, the Puzzle Master, and we are on number 25 of the Nakshatra series. So, we're on PurvaBhadrapada. Okay, now, Purva means like the first or foremost, and Bhadrapada means like lucky feet or the front of a funeral cot. Like it has quite depth in the translation. But we're going to get to the more detailed meaning after we realize that it's going from Aquarius energy into Pisces energy. Now, Aquarius is like the rebel, and it's air, Saturn, and it's fixed. So, air means it's all about the mind, higher thinking, logical, communicative, because it's air, ever-changing, flowing. And being that it is ruled with Saturn, there's trials, tribulations, and even again with the higher learning, or higher thought processes that are going to occur there. But this is a cusp nakshatra sign, which is going into Pisces, which is water, which is very emotional, and Jupiter, which is like expansion, growth. Wherever this is in your chart, it represents like it'll expand the qualities of that, but it's somewhat juvenile at times, and mutable. So opposite of fixed. So it's going to have a little bit of those qualities of both, because, fixed meaning stubborn, but mutable being changeable. So they'll have a little bit of these qualities mixed together to make PurvaBhadrapada. And yeah, so and then when we combine all of these qualities together, its class has been denoted as Brahmin, or priest. And, well, this is because of Jupiter, which Jupiter tends to give kind of priestly or like Brahmin qualities. Yeah, but also to know that to seek knowledge, they seek knowledge and power. But it depends on what you really do with that knowledge and power. That is completely another matter. Like, it's for good or bad, is totally dependent upon your free will. So, deep in the meaning here. Because Jupiter can be juvenile, so even though it's like priestly, because they're like higher knowledge and learning, sometimes they might be a little bit more manipulative in that information or knowledge, so doesn't necessarily mean like, depends what the priest does with that knowledge and power, whether or not it's going to make them good, like a priest or a Brahmin. So, because Jupiter is not usually seen as being serious or caring, so it can be seen as a little cruel. So, just to note that. Its nature has been given human, Manuasha, or human, as it's translated. And with these qualities, like as you'll see later on, as I describe, but this sign is given a human nature, but many people say that that's kind of a surprise, because you would think that it would be more kind of demonic or negative in its nature, but it was given human nature. So, because it's important to incorporate the Vedic wisdom for this, and in that there's quotes, and it says that humans are capable of more demonic acts than demons, and even more godly acts than that of gods. So, yes, and that goes with, kind of without saying, like it's Vedic wisdom is very imparting. Because humans, if they do great good, well, because being human, they're going to know in their conscious that they did a good thing, because they're neutral. But if they do a negative thing, then they have guilt and shame. So, compared to if someone who is mainly angelic in nature, well, they're just doing their nature. Like, even when they're doing a good thing, that just makes them feel normal. And when someone that has highly demonic influences or malefic, even when they're doing something wrong, that's in their nature, so it will feel akin to them. So a human can suffer the most trials and tribulations in this lifetime, with this moon placement, due to the nature that it's highly influential to the other people, that in the aspect where when they're swayed either way, like because we're going into a Pisces energy, they have kind of like a dark side, because like Pisces is two fish swimming in opposite directions, and Aquarius is like brings out kind of people's inner rebel. That's the sign of the rebel, or like thinking kind of outside the box, or you know what I mean, thinking differently. So when we combine those natures, it makes a very smart individual, because Aquarius is like the scientist. But with the dual nature of Aquarius, well, you'll see as I read on. So, yeah, it's given human nature, and I explained that. Its ruler is Jupiter, and as I said before, that is what makes them a little more juvenile, a little more, but at the same time seeking higher knowledge and wisdom and being priestly. But it's important to note where that energy is focused, because then it will, amplify, just as Jupiter does, the qualities and tendencies of wherever their energy is placed. Its symbol is the front part of a funeral cot. And this represents like the exiting of the world. Like as I mentioned earlier, PurvaBhadrapada represents like the first part of lucky feet, or first part of the funeral cot. And this has many fundamental symbologies to it. And it represents exiting the world, departing, moksha, like having higher goals that are not necessarily in this realm, and kind of letting go of the world, like for spiritual gain, becoming detached, because Aquarius is the detached sign. So when you combine a detached nature with a bipolar nature that is similar to Gemini, then you get an individual that has many character traits that the ones on the surface versus the one is in interior are very contradictory, and they keep their inner life versus like their private life versus the public life very separately for these fundamental reasons. And it also can sometimes be symbolized as a two-faced man. Okay, so but most of the time, from what I've seen, like through Nakshatra, if you type in on Google Nakshatra wheel zodiacs, you will find what I'm talking about, the depiction of the wheel. And with all this symbology, normally it is represented as the first part of a funeral cot, like well, if you do the search, then you'll know what I'm talking about with the imagery. But sometimes it also is depicted, but I've never really seen it this way, but it does make sense, is that a two-faced man. And this goes into the dual nature of Pisces, and going into where there's like a good boy complex and a bad boy complex, and they're very kind of clashing in their fundamental nature, because they want to come off as good, because they have a good understanding of that being human. But Aquarius, the rebel, kind of gives them a little bit of a streak where they can't share, because they know that people of the world are just like too much. But yeah, their element is ether. So for like compatibility in the Vedic texts and all of this, in normal Western astrology, there's only earth, air, fire, water. But in the Vedics, there is ether, and it's one of the more rare elements. And basically, it represents the spaces in between the matter, and they can almost get along with anybody. Very compatible and chameleon-like in their nature, so they can adjust to many situations and just kind of go with the flow, as ether does, because it's the spaces between the matter, or like the intangible substance. Its animal is denoted as a lion, and this is because they're very aggressive, dominant, and they don't necessarily give account to like the other people's perspective in a sexual relationship. Like, they're always kind of about themselves, almost like a Leo mentality, but it's completely different. But being combined, like as their animal placement being a lion, they're kind of heliocentric, or like only caring about themselves when it comes to sexual relationships, like, you know, not being very compassionate about other people that they've had relations with, like, you know, like, just let it go. And, yes. Myths associated with this is its name translates to the former lucky feet, or the feet of a stool. And the feet of a stool might give relation to being kind of fixed, the nature that comes from Aquarius, so sturdy, not wanting to make change or move, and also representing like the funeral cogs, like the legs, immovable, and about moving into the higher realms and letting go of the world and physical attachments, whether of any kind of nature or desire, to let go and kind of move on to the higher realms. The main ideas associated with this nakshatra are purgatorial fire. Purgatorial fire, yes. Contrition, atonement, scorching, paining, consuming desire, unsatisfied ambition, and no satisfaction. So you know, like that song when they're like, can't get no satisfaction. Like that song? It's the opposite of that song, satisfaction, when it's like do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. It's the opposite of satisfaction. No satisfaction. So, yeah, scorching fire and atonement and regret and pain and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's attributed to this sign, so. Ultra Bhadrapada. Yeah, they're traits that are going to be associated if you have this as your moon, or if you have your ascendant or your sun here, but mainly your moon sign, is you'll have huge amounts of energy. Huge, like more than almost any other signs. Aslesha is renowned for having huge amounts of energy. This sign even more so. It's interpreted differently and portrayed to the world differently, but they have more energy. Proper energy channeling from this sign can produce a sage. So, if they're in a positive denotation, or if it's being channeled properly, then it can bring great prosperity. But if they're being like the negative side of the Pisces, which is like the dark, then it can also bring great pain and great trials and tribulations and all that stuff, because Saturn coming from Aquarius. So it all depends like on your free will and the choices that you make in this lifetime. Yeah, so negative influences from this sign can produce a criminal, and coming from like the dark side that I was mentioning of the Pisces, and when you combine the dark side of the Pisces with the rebel of the Aquarius, we got a criminal, because it's the dark side that doesn't care. Like, like that's kind of how, when you combine those two elements. They have very intense willpower. So, as I said before, with energy, when they set their mind to something, they can usually accomplish it. They are very sincere. They don't like to lie. Like, they will lie, but I mean, they're usually fairly sincere. Like when it comes to the nakshatras, this isn't they're noble in that aspect. They're human. And even humans. I know I said earlier, kind of neutral. Humans are good in their basic fundamental components. It's just when we get manipulated from the world around us that things get twisted and messed up. Right? They're very aggressive, though. So even though I said they're sincere, they're very aggressive. And this can very much strongly depend on their Saturn placement, because Saturn is attributed with Aquarius. So it kind of ricochets to the Saturn, wherever that lies in your chart, or with Rahu. So depending on how that is, it can make them, it can amplify the aggressiveness. There is a denial of the physical world. A denial. So I said earlier about the funeral cot wanting to let go and move to higher realms. Well, on a negative side, for people on the world, it's like they let go. They have a detachment. And, yeah. And this, they behave as two different people. So they have like a public self and like a private self. And they can suffer from lots of regrets from the past because of their very perverse sexual nature due to the dark side of Pisces combined with being rebel from Aquarius. So they have that inside themselves, but I want you to know, if this is your moon placement, that if you're in a relationship or you have close friends, you can share stuff. You don't need to feel like you're an island. No man is an island. It's a completely it's a feeling, and if you feel alone, you're making yourself feel alone through producing negative judgment on yourself, which you need not do. Know that those are things in your nature, so it's fine. If you're not harming anyone, if it's your own self, your own mind, then do whatever the heck you want. You know what I mean? So, yes. But because of their detached nature for the physical realm, this can cause depression, or even though it can cause, as I said, there's two sides to every coin. So it can cause great spiritual growth, but it can also cause great pain and suffering in the physical realm here, because they have sometimes a hard time connecting or truly having the feeling of fitting in, even though they're a priest, or not a priest, sorry, human. Even though they have human nature, they might not necessarily feel like human, they truly can fit in as a human. Priest. I don't know why I said that. But yeah, they behave as two different people, so they might come off as being a little high and noble and good, but that's a double-edged sword there. They got more than just that going on in there, because the Aquarius being ruled by the mind and air, so it's all about the mind. So know that that's not all that's going on in there. Yeah, so diabolical pretty much sums up this nakshatra and its negative qualities, because they have paranoia, pessimism, violence, lying, being deceitful, and morbid. How do you say that? Morbidity, being morbid, or gross, or something you might not necessarily understand, and that's the reason why, you know what I mean, because that's people in our judgy world, right? When you combine all these elements, well, you gotta either channel this strong energy that you have, or it can be channeled negatively. This sign can produce saints or criminals. It's a very strong energy here because of the Aquarius combined with Pisces. Yeah, you have a rebel saint, because Pisces is kind of saintly in their energy. And yeah, but this sign represents kind of diabolical nature. And although their lives, they are exposed, in their lives they are exposed to many different situations that can cause transformations through their understanding of the darker sides of humanity, but they don't necessarily get their hands dirty in the process. And by this saying, it's that they venture into the world, but because of their detached nature, they can leave situations and be fine with it. But they still suffer from the repercussions of that, almost even more so due to their detachment, because then they almost can't work through the issues that they would want to work through, because they want to let go of the physical realm and move on to a higher realm. But that can be really hard sometimes. So, it can produce, yeah, Pisces and Aquarius combined. PurvaBhadrapada. It's a funeral god symbol. And yeah, their appearance, it can be represented by their calves, calves, this part of their legs. And I don't have any of that. I got weak calves, but if they have that sign, then they'll tend to have strong calves in the feet area, because it's a crossover sign, it's a cusp, so it has energy of both, and Aquarius rules the calves, Pisces rules the feet. So yeah, and that pretty much sums up this nakshatra. This is your sign. I want you to understand that it's just your nature, and that I hope that this has helped you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in 26, which is PurvaBhadrapada, or the back two legs of the funeral cot. So, and for that one, we're completely, we're completely in Pisces. So, There's no more rebel energy coming from Aquarius, and no more Saturn, and no more air. We're just completely emotional. So, look forward to that one. And we'll see you then. Bye.